everyone, it's Meg. Welcome to a new video. Today's video is very exciting, as you can tell by the title. This is a video talking about some books that I would like to recommend for International Women's Day. And this video, I believe I'm going to put this up on the 2nd of March, which is the Sunday before International Women's Day, which is on the 8th. So I wanted to put this video up basically like just before International Women's Day. I've done a reel for recommendations before last year, but I wanted to do a video and I have chosen 6 books I would personally recommend that are by women, about women, and I feel like there's quite a nice selection of books here. So I'm really excited to do this video and to share it with you all. So I really hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's get into the video. So the first book that I have to recommend is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. This book is set in the early 1960s and follows our main character Elizabeth Zott, who is a female chemist, and she's the only woman working in her lab and establishment. And because of that, she experiences a lot of sexism and harassment from her male co-workers, which is not fun at all. Throughout this book, Elizabeth deals with so many hardships. She goes through so much and a lot of stuff that is frowned upon women, especially at that time in the 60s. Especially a woman who isn't married. But at one point in the story, which isn't a spoiler because it is in the blurb, Elizabeth ends up becoming a host for a cooking show, and through that she combines her skills as a chemist along with her cooking skills to educate her viewers, who are mainly women and housewives, to kind of help them expand their world and show them that they can do more and be more than be like the housewives and caretakers that they are expected to be by society. I really love this book. I know it has gotten a lot of hype since it was released. It is very well loved, and I think it is that for a reason. This book definitely shows the hardships of being a woman and an educated, career-driven woman in the late 50s into the early 60s. But Elizabeth has so much resilience, and she clearly loves what she does as being a chemist, and she will stop at nothing until she achieves the career and the life that she wants, despite all the obstacles that are put against her. This book will also make you very angry. Those of you who have read it know it'll make you extremely angry, but again, you feel so inspired by Elizabeth's story and the journey that she goes through throughout this book. And I love this book with all of my heart. It's one that I will always repeatedly recommend. Very beautiful story, and I think it is definitely worth the hype. Next up, we have A Lady's Guide to Scandal by Sophie Irwin. This is a historical fiction novel following our main character Eliza, who at the age of 27 has been widowed, and she is allowed to access her husband's fortune as long as she doesn't get into any trouble or cause a scandal. At the start of this book, Elizabeth is a very timid and shy person and with no self-esteem whatsoever. Her late husband mistreated her rather badly, more on the emotional side, and her parents were never very supportive either. And because of this, she kind of got dwindled down to the speck of a person, to the point where she doesn't know who she is or what she wants anymore. But after the passing of her husband, for the first time in her life, she is allowed to be in charge of her own future. So instead of mourning quietly, she decides to take a trip to Bath with her cousin Margaret, where her life begins to take on a whole new turn. Eliza goes through so much growth throughout this book. I really wasn't a fan of her at the beginning of this book because she was so meek and mousy and just a speck of a person. But throughout this book, she really discovers who she is and what she wants out of life, the things that she loved as a child, and who the few people in her childhood who actually supported her doing that. And through this she begins to create a life that she truly wants, despite the backlash that she ends up receiving from society and her family. I actually listened to the audiobook for this and I really love the audiobook, so definitely recommend that if you want to read this book. But yes, I love this. This was one of my favourite books of last year and I did love everything about this book. There's also queer representation in here and also people of colour who were in like high society around this time, which I believe this book is set in Victorian times or maybe Georgian. I think it's Victorian. And there's also a bit of a plot twist in here which I was not expecting at all. But I love this book. I love the rebellious side that Eliza has in this book against society and her family's wishes and expectations, because at the end of the day she just wants to be happy and live the life that she wants, and I really admire her and her strength for kind of, you know, pushing through all of that, obviously in a time where women did not have many rights. I promise this is the last historical fiction novel now, but this is The Illumination of Ursula Flight by Anna Marie Crowhurst. This book is set in the 17th century and follows our main character Ursula Flight, and this book starts on the day she was born under a bad luck comet. Growing up in the countryside, she is educated by her forward-thinking father and discovers her love of reading, writing and astrology. Ursula dreams of becoming a playwright. However, her family have other ideas and she is expected to fulfill the expectations of getting married instead of obviously leading a creative life. And since she doesn't obviously want to get married, she plans to plot her escape and trying to live the life she wants, but unfortunately that comes at a price. This is a really beautiful coming of age story. It probably goes through about the first 20 years of Ursula's life, and she is a very spirited young woman who just wants to live a creative life of being a playwright in a time where women have very, very little rights and are only expected to get married and have children. Ursula is definitely a woman who is ahead of her time. She is breaking boundaries and she will do whatever it takes to live the life that she wants, which definitely seems to be a theme throughout these books that I've talked about so far. But this is such a beautiful book, and I love kind of the theatre setting in like the second half of the book as well. I think this is called like the regeneration, that's probably not the right word, but kind of like the regeneration of theatre in that era. And I think it's really, really beautiful. And I think if you like Anne of Green Gables or I Capture the Castle, you will like this book. I think their main characters from those books have a very similar vibe to Ursula, which I also really love. Next we have a non-fiction book, which is Word Slut, A Feminist Guide to Taking Back the English Language by Amanda Montell. So our author Amanda is a reporter and feminist linguist, and this book is about the deconstructing of language from insults, cursing, gossip, grammar and more, to reveal ways it has been used for centuries to keep women and other marginalised genders from power. This book moves between history, science and popular culture, answering questions and how we can use those answers to affect real social change. I've never read a book about feminist or just generally linguistics before, and I found this book so interesting. Even though it's a topic that I have, like I said, never read or learned much about before, it was very easy to like understand. It's very accessible and also really insightful. I listened to the audiobook for this as well and I loved the audiobook. I actually bought the physical copy of this book before I'd even finished the audiobook because I loved it that much. Amanda also laces a lot of her humour throughout this book, so that also makes it very easy to understand as well, and also kind of a sense of familiarity and lightheartedness, even though obviously throughout this book we are talking about some quite serious subjects. I learned so much from reading this book. I absolutely adored it and I do definitely want to reread it so I can like annotate the book as well. But I would definitely honestly recommend this book so much if you have not picked it up. Like I said, whether it's audio or physical, I think you will learn so much. There's so much about like feminist linguistics specifically that I never thought would, you know, affect us in like our day-to-day lives or like in society and all that sort of thing. It was just so interesting, so I Obviously I recommend all of these books, but I definitely highly recommend this one if you are looking for a read that will definitely make you feel empowered, and you will gain like more knowledge that you can share with other people, because that's something I've definitely been doing since I read this book. The last two books I have are some fun YA books that I absolutely adore. So the first one is Diary of a Confused Feminist by Kate Weston. I mentioned this book a few times over the past couple of years on this channel, but if you didn't know, this book follows our main character Kat, who is in high school, and she wants to become a good feminist, even though she's not really sure what that means. So this book is basically a coming of age story following Kat and her best friends as they kind of discover and learn more about feminism and what it means to be a good feminist. And throughout the story it covers some very important topics such as periods, mental health, the process of applying for therapy, bullying, friendships, and so much more. If I can tell you one thing about a Kat Weston book, it's that she is absolutely hilarious. These books are so funny, as Kat used to be a stand-up comedian, but in between the humour there is also a lot more layers and depth in this book, like I said, with some of the subjects that this book handles, and I feel like they are handled very well. I really wish that there was a book like this when I was in high school, because literally all we had in my time at school was like The Hunger Games and Twilight, like that was it, nothing more, and I didn't even like those books, I never even read them. But I feel like this should be like a book in all the school libraries, or I hope it was in some of the school libraries, but I feel like it should be. I feel like there's so many teens who would be able to relate to this book. And again, it is also quite educational as well, and yeah, it's very like heartwarming book. Even though it has its light-hearted moments, it also has its moments of like deeper meaning as well. It's just a really beautiful and funny and realistic portrayal of high school, and I love every single thing about this book. I cannot recommend it enough, and also the sequel to this, which is Must Do Better, I think I might like that even more. And the last book I have on this list is Blood Moon by Lucy Cuthew. I haven't talked about this book on my channel in the longest time, but when I was thinking of books to put on this list, I knew that this had to be on it. I haven't done any notes for this, so I will read you the blurb so you guys know exactly what this book is about. During Frankie's first sexual experience with the lovely Benjamin, she gets her period. It's only blood, they agree, no shame. Then a graphic meme goes viral, turning their fun, intimate afternoon into something mortifying and damaging. And Frankie begins to wonder, is she disgusting? As the online shaming takes on a horrifying life of its own, her universe implodes. But can laughter, bravery, and the fiercest of friendships help Frankie find her way out of the darkness? This book is written in verse, and I feel like this really enhances the story. Like, I think I read this book within like 2 days because it was so much more fast paced than I was expecting it to be, and I literally like couldn't tear my eyes away from it until I had gotten to the last page. So I guess in a nutshell, this book is about periods and sex and online shaming, and how that can all escalate on social media and the effects it can have on people. And I think this should be like mandatory reading in schools. This was absolutely phenomenal, this book. It just shook me to my core, and I think again it's very realistic of the online world that we live in now, and how things can escalate so much out of control, especially with topics that people shouldn't be ashamed of, like periods and sex and all that sort of thing. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but obviously some people in the online community can take it the wrong way. I feel like more people definitely need to read this book. I hope that I see more people reading this book. It has been out for a couple of years now, but I really, really love this book. Like I said, I think it should be mandatory reading in schools. I think it's very, very important, and like I said, it shines a light on some very important topics. So those are all the books that I wanted to recommend to you guys today. I really do love each and every single one of these books, and I hope that if you decide to pick one of them up that you will as well. And also don't forget to leave your suggestions in the comments down below of some like feminist / just books written by women that you really enjoyed and would like to share with everybody. I'm always looking for more recommendations to add to my TBR as well. And I would just like to say happy International Women's Day to all the beautiful, stunning women out there. If you are watching this video, whether it is before, on the day of, or after International Women's Day. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you have not already. I will leave the links to my social media along with my Goodreads in the description down below for you guys if you would like to see more bookish content that you will not find on this channel. I have also recently started using Fable, by the way, so I'll try and remember to leave that in the description as well, so you guys can follow me on there. I'm still getting used to it, but I am very much enjoying my time of like recording my books on there so far. But thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you again very soon. Bye guys!